release. I'm gonna be real with you. I really love Sonic Frontiers. I think it's a great game. I love Sonic Team. I love what they did with the time and budget that they had. Sega always rushes every single product they try to push out, and the fact that this game is supposed to release a year previously is insane to me. Considering all of the issues and problems that it has, it is a miracle that it was able to be released in this state, and all of the post-launch updates and stuff have been incredible. But just to be real, no matter how much you love Sonic Frontiers or love this game is not a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 quality. If you're talking about putting Sonic Frontiers in the level of games like Tears of the Kingdom or just a pure objective look at video games in general, this game cannot be on that level.
And so I've comprised 84 ways to polish Sonic Frontiers and the Final Horizon.
Sonic has been AAA before. It's been AAA with Sonic Unleashed. It's been AAA with Sonic Adventure 2. And a lot of these issues really can't be fixed anymore. A lot of it is for Sonic Frontiers 2 or whatever new Sonic game they come out with. A lot of these ideas that they had in Sonic Frontiers are really good and need to just be improved upon and ironed out and just be polished, just like the title of the video. I try not to be opinionated, but I'm a Sonic Adventure 2 stan, so I do have a little bit of my bias inserted into some of the ideas and some of the things that could have fixed and improved the game, but let's get into it. Do not downgrade in any way. So what did I mean by that? I mean that is there something that you did in a previous Sonic game that was high quality and it was good and it worked and it functioned correctly, then if you're going to bring it into a newer game, then it should either be at the same quality or higher. So what does that mean with examples? So for example, homing attack tricks. In older Sonic games like Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Heroes, you would do a homing attack and you'd have a cool swaggy little trick you would do after. But in Frontier, they don't have that. You just do the same little front flip over and over. Like, that's a downgrade. The light speed dash animation in the first, or actually the second game it came in, which is SA2, to me that's had the best looking animation with those after effects. It looked amazing, and it looks so janky in this game. The standing animation, the running animation, when I know that things like that and like the model that's like a debate. People have their own preferences, but you can't deny that there are some games that have higher quality models than in Sonic Forces or Sonic Frontiers, which if you take out any preference or anything, like I like the SA2 model the best, but in reality the best model is the Unleashed model. So if you're going to make a new Sonic game, either use the Unleashed model or make it better or make another model that looks better. Don't let anything look worse than it did previously. This also has to do with the expressions of Sonic, like when he's standing still, or his facial expressions or sound effects. I don't want any sound effect to be sounding weaker or sounding weirder or sounding low budget if they did it better in the previous game. That was like 10 points all right there, wasn't it? Okay, number 9, physics. So I'm not necessarily talking about adding momentum physics to the game. I understand that that's kind of like a developer like philosophy, like a game philosophy. So if you don't want to have momentum into the game, that's fine, but there's like a standard of good physics in Sonic game, especially in 2D Sonic games, and you should not be able to be walking up slopes and things like that when that's something that you saw 30 years ago. Number 10, collisions. The running is kind of janky in this game, and messing with walls and anything that's not a flat surface, the game gets kind of wonky, so just clean it up. Number 11, picking up rings and items without touching it. This is like a pet peeve of mine. I understand that with a game where you're moving quickly and it's like a platformer, I can understand giving a little leeway, but it's kind of ridiculous in this game. It just makes it look goofy. Number 12, loading screens and boss fights. Especially in the Wervine fight, I don't even know how you say it. That really took me out of that boss fight, man. Like that's my favorite boss fight in the game. That fight was so amazing. But man, to do QTEs and to do like a really cool animation, like you toss them across the arena and then the mess goes black, is just so disappointing. Number 13, having a proper game over screen. I appreciate that Sonic Frontiers game over screen is very fast. Like I like it, like just get straight to the point, put me back in the game. But it's honestly like very abrupt to the point where it looks like they didn't finish it. This just goes black and the music will still be playing and the camera just completely stops when you do it. It just looks really off and awkward and unfinished. 14, adding a pop-in slider into the game. Pop-in is a huge thing people have complained about, of the things loading into the background, but literally modders have added in sliders into the game because higher end consoles and PCs can fix the pop-in problem to an extent. So that should be added into the game. Number 15, goal ring interactions. It's the same thing like when you're picking up rings, how you won't even be anywhere near the ring. You can be just in the air above it and it'll still just freeze you in midair. What games like Sonic Heroes did, and Adventure 2, I hate to keep bringing up Adventure 2, but as soon as you would get near the ring or touch it, the game would act like you just took your hand off the stick. You would gradually like slow down or whatever, which is fine. It looks too jank with this game. Number 16, toggling off the birthday banner in birthday mode. The birthday mode was really cool. I love the birthday UI and with his stats, like how it has the color theme, but just that whole filter that they just slapped on top is cool, but please let us take that off. Number 17, have the CGI trailers and the CGI movies or the animations like Knuckles Resurgence, please have that in the game. Like, you wasted all that money, you made all those beautiful, amazing looking trailers, and you can't even see them in game. Like, that really frustrated me a lot, and it's actually really sad, especially with the Knuckles short. Like, that's a lot of story stuff, and you can't interact with it. Same with the prequel comic. I wish that prequel comic would have just been adapted into a cutscene because I thought it added some context. I wish you could at least like find it and then be able to read it on your own. Number 18, put the photo mode on the left D-pad button. Whenever you get into like a combat situation, you can press left on the D-pad in order to bring up the little training dialogue. So that's the only thing you use left D-pad for. But I think that they should kind of like override that button, because the only time you'd use down on the D-pad is when you're scrolling through the jukebox. So if you don't already have the jukebox open, you're really never going to be messing with the jukebox and do that dialogue at the same time. Moving on to Cyberspace, sidestep distance. When you're standing still, I realized that the sidestep distance, it matches for the dash panels, like how they set it up in 1-2. But if you're running or you're boosting, then you go too far. So they need to fix that while you're boosting, at least in Cyberspace. I get why it's like why you go that far when you're in the open zone. Number 20, give the Cyberspace stages names. Even if you're doing Chronos Act 1 through Act 7, in Sonic Colors they had Planet Wisp Act 5, 6, 7. So you might as well just do the same with Chronos. It sounds really kind of insane that we're literally calling stages 2-4 and expecting people to actually recognize it. Or even like the songs, like we don't know the song names for almost all of them, and we don't even know the stage names. Like, it's kind of insane. Number 21, better red ring locations. A lot of these red rings in this game are just on the straight main path. There's like so many opportunities to hide them just to give a little bit of challenge. Games like Sonic Colors, those red rings were crazy to find. I'm not even necessarily asking for that difficulty. I'm just saying that the stages are already very short. Just utilize all the stage that you can and just disperse the red rings a little better. Number 22, the ramp animation is too stiff. And so whenever you go off a ramp in Frontiers, he goes into that like that arm splayed animation, and it actually does transition into a falling animation, but it takes a really long time, especially in Cyberspace for some reason. And in games like SA2, you kind of he has a very similar animation, except like you can see like his quills moving, and like you can see like his arms kind of like shaking, whatever, and so it gives it like a sense of realism. It looks like he's kind of skydiving, but in Frontiers it looks like the animation just isn't finished, and so it just looks like a default pose that they didn't have time to finish. Number 23, my biggest issue with Sonic Frontiers, fix the controls for Cyberspace. You can let the speed be something that can't be edited, but everything else, the turning, all the controls from the open zone, that should be applied to Cyberspace, because the game just feels ridiculous. That really frustrates me really badly, and I really hope with the Final Horizon, if there's anything that you fix before you leave this game alone, please fix the Cyberspace controls. Number 24, fix the 2D physics. Just let the footage speak for itself. Number 25, running in midair. I guess they were trying to replicate the classic feel with him running in midair, but it honestly just looks really bad. For modern Sonic, I don't think it fits it at all. Number 26, have more than 4 level themes. There's only Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, Sky Sanctuary, and I guess the city. Some people are calling it the Eternal City. I don't know where they got that from. If you're going to use Sonic's memories as an excuse to reuse old assets, please just go all out. That kind of goes into my next point for number 27. is that if you're going to use his memories, let's say if the game had more time, this isn't necessarily polished. If you want to be in that AAA, like really amazing category, and you're going to use something like his memories are jumbled and stage design, the layouts are going to be mixed up and there's enemies mixed up, then you might as well go all out. And instead of bringing in a random skateboard, use extreme gear from Sonic Riders, or mash level themes together. Like halfway you're in Green Hill, and then halfway through the stage it'll change into Green Jungle from Sonic Adventure. I keep bringing up Adventure 2. Okay, bring up something else. Seaside Hill. I keep bringing up Heroes. Y'all gonna think that's the only games I ever played, but I promise you I played more than 2 Sonic games. And even with the music too, like I think the music was a kind of, I like the Cyberspace music, like it's okay, but I think it was a missed opportunity to go back to old songs and level themes and really just go crazy with it. And number 28, if you're gonna reuse old level design, please make some longer levels. I get they would do things like only use the 3D sections from Chemical Plant and Sonic Generations, which is cool. Like I actually like that. That's cool. And I understand why that level is short, because that's all there is. But I think that with some of their more unique levels that they use, I feel like they should have took the opportunity to make some longer levels. Just like in Sonic Colors, normally like Act 1 is the longest, Act 2 is pretty similar in length, and then you have the baby stages. So I wish they would have did the same. Number 29, utilize upgrade items. I'm such an Adventure fanboy, but in Adventure 1 and 2, I really loved how they would start off in their basic outfit, and they would get these bracelets, they would get the shoes, they would get all these upgrades, and they would look cool by the end. And this isn't necessarily, like I said, this does not necessarily have to do with polish, but there's a lot of things that Sonic does in this game. Just like one of the first puzzles he does is that he uses some kind of telekinetic ability and he turns these statues around. But it's never really explained how he does that. Is that just anybody can do that? Like anybody comes to the island? Or it's not like he has some kind of cybernetic memory or some kind of cyberspace powers. They don't go into detail about it. Even the side loop, like they don't even explain how he does it. So to me, they could have, just like in Sonic Unleashed, how you have like Chip's bracelet, and that's like the only thing he has throughout the old game, or like in Sonic and Secret Rings, like he had the ring, or in Black Knight he had the glove. They could have gave him like a cyberspace necklace, or a earring, or a ring, or something on his shoes, just so it would make sense why he's doing all these cyberspace type things, like using the telekinesis on the statues, or in Ares when he's floating the missiles above his head. Also, he could use an item for how he runs on the surfaces. He's never been able to wall run, or he's wall ran in Sonic Lost World, but besides the parkour in that game, he's never really been seen to climb. And of course, he has that glow around his hands and his feet. So that could have been a nice opportunity to say that, like, oh, he has an item and it's allowing him to channel or interact with these objects in a certain way, blah, blah, blah. It just would have made him look more unique and gave him his own specific look for the game, while also cleaning up some plot holes. Number 30, make the platforms and rails match the environment. And so, with Kronos and Arenos, and I guess Rhea, I honestly don't really mind the black. Like, to me, like that blackish purplish color, like it matches the enemies, like the ninja and what's that jump scare enemy called? I forgot his name. Flyer? That's not his name. But it kind of matches all of that stuff in that island. And so I'm kind of okay with the black, but in reality, you have games like SA2 where you're in Green Forest and you're grinding on vines, or you're in City Escape and you're on the little city grind rails, stuff like that, or you're in Sky Chase and has like that pumpkin aesthetic type thing. I know that a lot of the floating platforms, a lot of that was added last minute in the grand scheme of the whole development process. So I think if they had more time, maybe that kind of stuff would have matched a little bit better. But I think just for, like I spoke about earlier, if you do something in one game, then you should always upgrade. Even in Sonic 06, they were grinding on wind and things like that. So like you can always make the game match the scenery. Number 31, have more environments for the Starfall Islands. There's only 4 environments: the forest, desert, volcano, and then forest 2 more times. I feel like they clearly ran out of time. I think the story was that it was actually 3 islands. Kronos, Rhea, and Arenas was 1 island, it was way bigger than the other two, and they didn't have time to make the other ones big enough. I don't know what the story was, but like, just look at the mods, the forest autumn mods or the cherry blossom mods. It was extremely disappointing and honestly kind of disingenuous how they marketed the islands, and they purposely hid off the last two islands. They made it seem like, oh, it's a secret, like, oh, like, we don't want to spoil the whole game, like, oh, and people were like, oh, it's going to be a snow island, it's going to be an Eggman Land island, and they really just played us. You know, no game developer wants to do that mess, but it's sad that they didn't have enough time to finish it. I wish that the final horizon, I wish there could be a new island or a revamped Arenos or something, but it's most likely never going to happen. Number 33, the Find Amy quest name, or the Find Amy's memory token quest names, is extremely lazy, and I wish that they would put a little bit more effort into making those names. Even just saying search for friends, grammatically, like, just say search for Amy and Tails, because that's who he's looking for. And so instead of saying, like, it's almost like they were trying to save time, like, instead of on each island saying search for Amy and Tails, and then when you're on the third island it's just search for Tails, or I guess second island he would still be quote unquote searching for Tails because he doesn't know Knuckles is there. I don't know why it just seemed like they must have really been rushed, because like, search for friends, it just sounds so strange. And so even saying, like, for example, you're going throughout the story and you're trying to find the Chaos Emerald, there comes a point where you find like almost all the emeralds, and depending on how you play the game, you could get like all the emeralds, but then you still have to talk to Amy to do all of like her storyline stuff, so then you could eventually do the final puzzle and get to the boss. And so what the game will do is it'll just say over and over, talk to Amy, find Amy, find Amy. It's like, why? Like, story wise, why? Like, I wish it would be more, you can have the cutscene segue into the quest name, like we knew that Amy's trying to help the Coco find the love or whatever, and she will go to certain spots on the island, I guess where the Coco are, but just to find Amy, like, it's just, you can make the story tie into the quest names and make it less lazy. I don't want to call them lazy, they're not lazy, but that's what it comes off as. Number 34, make use of the Eggman pods. I think they could have been really cool spots to change your outfits. Like, I know they have a tab at the beginning of the game, the options menu, but the fact that you have to literally quit out of the game and then go and change it in the options and then come back out, like, I wish they would have had the forethought to make use of it. Maybe you go inside and you change your outfits. In a perfect world, there would be models to choose from, and I think even if not for that, it would have really been cool if you had to go to the Eggman pods and you get those memos, and that's where you pop it in, and you're like in Eggman's little base listening to his memos. It's fine that you can listen to it in the fishing, like, that's completely fine. I'm just coming up with ideas to make use of them, or if that's where you change the time of day. Also add the light shoes to the SA2 soap shoes. I really don't like how the soap shoes look just naked. Like, if it doesn't have the highlights, it looks so boring, so please add that. Number 36, give the R2 roll more slope physics so it can actually have a use. I think it's cool, I guess, or cute, or whatever you want to say, that they add the little roll, but I wish you could get some more speed with it, just so it can have like some actual use, like gameplay wise, besides just a little Easter egg. Number 37, limit the amount of memory tokens that there are in a level. I think that when it comes to the Starfall Islands, there's like a limited amount of memory tokens that you can get. And so even if you do all of the challenges with Amy, you can still get memory tokens, but there's no reason for it. And so I know on the map, there's specific memory tokens that like you can only get from an open zone challenge, and then it's gone forever. And so I think all of them should be like that. I don't think you should be able to like get any more from enemies or from side looping or whatnot. If you honestly grind Kronos Island, and of course you might have to wait for a Starfall event, but you can unlock most of the stuff in the skill tree in the first island. I think it's a good attempt at a first skill tree in like a real Sonic game, like a mainline Sonic game. But if you look at games like Spider-Man, there's like 3 different skill trees. So one for gadgets, and then one for movement, and then one for combat. And so I would like to take that idea and I would like to apply it to Sonic Frontiers. So I came up with 2 different trees to have. You would have your combat tree and your movement tree. And so for movement, Sonic has a lot of things that he can do that the game doesn't really explain to you, and they just give him all these random abilities that he just has at the beginning. And Like I said, I like the adventure games. I like having to unlock stuff, and I like the feeling of him getting progressively stronger. And so I think it should apply to his movement. And so things that he could have in a movement tree is he could have his light speed dash and have an upgraded light speed dash. And so I know that as you upgrade your speed ability, your light speed dash gets less and less laggy at the end. And so I think I like that idea, even though it looks kind of goofy and kind of jank. And so I think if you apply it to a tree, maybe he just has a regular slow light speed dash, and then he gets the after images and he goes like the, you know, there's no lag at the end. I think that would be nice. You can also have the drop dash, put that into the skill tree, having the infinity logo where you can make yourself run at full boost for 3 minutes. That should be a part of the movement tree, and then you should be able to upgrade that in order to make it last longer. His wall run that he can use, I know when you're climbing up the mountain, you can just hold boost and then you'll start running. And so that wall run should be part of the skill tree, that eventually he can always do the wall climb, but you get enough XP, then you can wall run. The ring summon with the side loop, that's kind of busted, and from the very beginning you can just max side loop and get max rings. I think that'd be a cool ability to like have it something that you upgrade to get, and then you can also make it so you upgrade to get the chance for XP and then the chance for memory tokens. Because if you just spam side loop in the circles, you can get anything you want in the game. And it would make sense if they like add to it as part of a skill tree. I also think it should be either toggleable or it should not work during combat. I think maybe on like easy and medium difficulties, then yes, you should be able to side loop for more rings during combat. But maybe like on hard difficulty, extreme is a different story. But with hard difficulty, maybe if you try to side loop in combat, maybe rings won't work. The power boost should also be in the movement tree. I love the power boost, it's an awesome idea, but it would be cooler if that's like something you unlock. Some people may not agree with me on that, but just the fact that that power boost has never been in a game like that with the 400 rings, whatever. I think, and it's cool, I think a lot of people had a nice experience where they just randomly got 400 rings and they had that cool cutscene and the power boost. I think it's awesome. But if you're gonna have a movement tree and add a lot of stuff to the tree, then I think the power boost should go there as well. I also think homing attack tricks, that could be something just like you have your regular trick system that you unlock, to be able to do tricks after a homing attack, just because it looks awesome. And I don't know, I don't really like the idea of having to use a stick to physically do a trick, but maybe just the idea that it just looks cool, I'm perfectly cool with that as well. And then for your combat tree, it would look basically the same, but I would add the triple bounce stomp. The triple stomp that does like the lightning bolts at the end, I'd add that to the combat tree, because a lot of people don't even know it exists. That's a big reason why I want a bigger skill tree in general, because most people don't even know you can drop dash in this game, or a lot of people don't know anything about the infinity logo unless somebody just accidentally did it. Oh, also with the movement tree, I think being able to reduce the homing attack delay, even though I guess that's kind of your that's kind of combat, but you homing attack and everything, so I think that should be a part of the movement tree as well. So I think with combat tree you have the triple bounce, and then you can also just make your stomp have a larger radius on impact and have that be something that's upgradable. I think that would be pretty good, and it just would fill out the tree a little bit more, make it feel more satisfying when you fill it all out. And so for combat, I feel like you would really just have to revamp the whole thing. And once again, I'm trying to talk about more polish, like making what's already there and just cleaning it up and making it look nicer. And so I know a big problem with playing at level 1 is, it's kind of button mashy, and I'm not trying to change the whole combat system because that's not really polished. That's just making it better. Like, I hope you know what I'm trying to say. But I think something that has to do with polish is making enemies scale. I feel like they're too weak on pretty much like the whole game until you get to the end. Especially if you're at max level. Like, there's people, including me, who has to avoid putting all your attack stats into, basically I have to avoid, what's that Coco, the tall one? I have to basically avoid going to him because he's gonna upgrade my attack stat and I'm gonna one shot everybody, and the combat is boring now because all the enemies have too little HP. So enemies should scale better depending on your difficulty. I should not have to avoid increasing my attack stat to have fun and engage in combat. Number 41, more enemies spawn with difficulty. I think that's another way to make combat more interesting, is if you're on easy mode, maybe only 2 soldiers spawn, but then you're on hard mode and 8 spawn. When it comes to New Game Plus, having more enemies spawn, or something that I would think would be interesting is, for example, you have Ninja or most of your mini bosses spawn by themselves, but instead have them spawn with soldiers next to them, just to make things a little more chaotic, more challenging. Number 42, decrease the parry time. Depending on the difficulty, you can, on easy mode, you can infinitely parry. That's cool. If you want to do that, and a lot of people, it's Baby's First, Devil May Cry, Baby's First open world, whatever. I think it's cool. On harder difficulties, I think you should decrease the amount of time that parry lasts. Fix the lock-on. I love the lock-on system. I made a video a long time ago that Sonic needs a lock-on system, kind of similar to like the Legend of Zelda. This is kind of similar, but I think it's kind of flawed. Like I like the way it works, but if you touch the right stick at all, or if you want to use your right stick in any way, it's gonna like mess up. And so I think they should just like, you know, polish it up a little bit. Stop the mini boss zoom in screen for every time you see them. I think the first time is perfectly fine. Or let's say, I think once you beat them and you get that star, you should not have to have it zoom in, or you should not have to avoid running around them so you do not have that screen. Because it's not about getting their aggro, it's about the screen that annoys a lot of people. Have your electric attacks stun opponents. I think having more elemental attacks, like you already gave him, Sonic normally has a wind motif, but the fact you gave him a lot of electric stuff, he has wind and electric stuff in this game. So I think it'd be interesting to, you know, have attacks that if they do electric damage, then maybe that has consequences for the enemies. Or even maybe if we're going back to the skill tree idea, that you can upgrade attacks to make them do electric damage. You know, some electric attacks hit multiple opponents. I guess I should have mixed those 2 points together, but maybe you have electric attacks stun them, or if it's like the stomp, the triple bounce stomp thing, and the electric bolts shoot out, maybe the electric will hit multiple opponents, give it that AoE effect. I would like for there to be like wind effects as well, like maybe you blow enemies away, but I'm not trying to, there's not really many attacks that like specifically show like the wind, so that's why I'm just trying to focus what's already in the game, which is the electric attacks. I realize I'm gonna contradict myself, but your spin moves that like where he's spinning like a vortex, I think they should have the wind. I think they should utilize that, and maybe you can drag enemies in, like, you know, making like a little tornado, not necessarily making a whole tornado animation or anything, but just dragging them in. It just makes sense with what the move he's doing. Have slide knock enemies upwards or like trip them, but most of the time when you try to slide, it just makes you do the loop kick. The slide has no purpose, so I was just trying to give slide a purpose. Take off the white screen for that ball move. Even if you take off the cinematic camera, it still makes the screen flash white. And maybe if you have the cinematic camera on, okay, the white flash is cool, I guess, but after like the first time, it kind of loses its cool factor. But especially if you have the camera off, that should not be happening. So I don't have much to say about the story. I think just making it more cohesive, that's the main thing. Like, I feel like instead of just randomly finding Tails somewhere randomly on that volcano island, I think there should be like cutscenes that kind of talk about why he's going to a certain direction, or like something that leads him there like by himself. I know like it's supposed to be, oh, he's just exploring, he just randomly finds him, but even when you and Tails split up to go and look for the Chaos Emeralds, and so every time you meet him there out, it's as if like you just randomly run into him, and then y'all just having a chit chat, or he eventually has something to help you with. Like, I wish they would, maybe in the previous cutscenes, he would be like, oh, there's some Cocos over there, let's go talk to those Coco, or oh, there's that structure over there, let's go to that structure, and then you end up going to the structure, just so it makes a little more sense, instead of you just talk to Tails, and then then the quest dialogue comes up, find Tails or talk to Tails, and he's just on the other side of the map for seemingly no reason. And I just feel like it would make it just make more sense, you know? I feel like the sound mixing in some of the cutscenes is kind of low.
Maybe I could, but first I need to be back to normal.
Like sometimes it feels like a little awkward, or maybe it's just all the volume in general feels low. Maybe I just play the game on a low volume, but I feel like I never had a problem with volume during gameplay or anything until cutscenes. Like it just seemed like very weak for some reason. So maybe that's just me. I don't know. This might be a little controversial, but I think some of the cutscene music is really lacking for certain scenes. There's some where, like, especially when you're dealing with the Coco or with the ancients and all that, I like all that cutscene music, but they play some goofy cartoon Saturday morning music in certain scenes. Like, I guess they're going for the Sonic X vibe, but I really don't think it matches the game. Like, they have that same kind of music in Unleashed, that kind of heroic Saturday morning type music, and it just sounds so cheesy and it just sounds so out of place, and it just makes some moments seem very awkward. No more tutorial or dialogue pop-ups once you're on New Game Plus. The pop-ups are annoying even on your first playthrough. I feel like the pop-ups are already annoying enough, but I understand there's a lot you want to explain to the player, and so that's something that we just have to deal with. I mean, there's probably a better way to make that seem more polished and make it fit better, but I'm really just focusing on the New Game Plus. You should not be doing New Game Plus and having to deal with that. Like, that is infuriating. If you're doing New Game Plus, I think, or even just the hard mode, I should have named the section like hard mode, New Game Plus. I've been talking about hard mode and New Game Plus this entire video, but I think doing things like you need more requirements for the Chaos Emeralds, or you need more requirements for the Cyberspace portals. I don't know if that's already in the game. I think Extreme Mode has changed a lot of stuff. Like, Extreme Mode made Cyberspace times more strict, and I think some Over Zone challenges more strict, which is really good. I wish that would apply to hard mode as well. I think it should. I wish hard mode and extreme mode were the exact same, except for the one hit kill. Like, everything that applies to extreme mode should apply to hard mode as well. I guess that's the overall issue with that. And so, correct me if I'm wrong if gear count requirement is already increased in hard and extreme modes, or in New Game Plus. Spin Dash remains on all your accounts once you unlock it. It's really sad that with New Game Plus, you will automatically start if you're on max level and you do New Game Plus and you go back to the very beginning of the game, you one-shot everything because everything is so easy. Like, the game does not scale according to it, and so it's really frustrating if you want to play the game over again with Spin Dash, experience everything all over again, but you can only use Spin Dash on your account that you're max level on. And so I think Spin Dash should apply to everything once you unlock it, that you can just do a flat new game, level 1 everything, but have the Spin Dash. Or just fix the scaling so that New Game Plus can actually be enjoyable. New Red Ring locations. Now we go on to the Final Horizon, which for a lot of people was kind of a mixed bag. In the words of, was it Jaden who said this? Was it Jaden? I think it was Jaden XV who said it. Sonic Team cooked, but they overcooked. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I really enjoyed the Final Horizon, but they did have so many issues, more than the base game, quite frankly, and that it really kind of soiled my experience. So up front and foremost, number 60, fixed the delay on attacks and on side loop. 61, fixed Knuckles' glide. This is like the biggest issue with his character. He played perfectly in SA2, his glide, and in SA1, his glide was just amazing. So just give it the same kind of physics and turning as that. I know people complain about Tails turning, but honestly, Tails is fine. And a delay on his gliding as well. He has this, like a little startup just like Knuckles has, but I feel like Tails is kind of good for platforming just because he moves a little bit when he does that. With Knuckles, he's just standing still in the air. So you can keep Tails' delay, but Knuckles, you have to take that out. Number 62, fix the controls. So with Sonic Frontiers, you know, they have all the sliders for your acceleration, your deceleration, your starting speed. but for some reason every character, if you don't set your deceleration to max, or I think if you don't set your deceleration to 1, they have like a weird, if you just push the stick a little bit with them, they'll continue walking for like an extremely long amount of time. And so you literally have to, in order to get rid of that, you have to like put the deceleration all the way, it's either all the way on 1 or 99. So I don't know what's going on there. Number 63, remove infinite flight with Tails Cyclone or Tornado. They're calling it the Cyclone. I thought his plane was called the Tornado. Number 64, once again, remove the infinite jump from Knuckles' kit. There's an issue with him in other Sonic games for some reason. I don't know why it's always Knuckles, but remove that. Number 65, fix integrated GPU issues. I don't know what that means. I'm not good with computers. All I know is that a lot of people who have, I guess, specific kind of computers, their game won't even open. Like their game just crashes on launch. I know that was a big issue when the game first came out. And so it has to do with, if you have an iGPU, whatever that means. The people who are smarter than me, they already figured it out. So just fix that for them. And I think also just PC stability in general has been pretty bad. And so I don't know if that's because of Denuvo, but the game was stable on update 2 and for like the entire history of Sonic Frontiers. So they need to patch out some of those issues. Number 66, upgrade Knuckles so that he can climb on other terrain. I think it's okay that he doesn't climb on like the cyberspace constructs, but I feel like he should be able to climb on, you know, regular rocky walls and things like that. I think that's part of Knuckles' character, and it makes him feel more unique because he definitely feels like the weakest out of all. Not only does he like feel the worst to play, but he is also like the weakest. When you think about Amy having her hover and Tails having his glide stuff, or his flying stuff. Number 67, let characters be playable on any island. Mods have already, like literally like day 1, there's already character select mods that let you just change a character with the D-pad. People doing freaking character swap combos and stuff like that. And then if you were to play New Game Plus, I feel like as soon as you break them out of the little cyber cage, if you were to redo the story again, you should be playable with them on any island from then on. And I think it would just make the experience a lot more enjoyable. And we see that it's possible with mods, so I don't see what's the issue. Just even if they don't work entirely the best with Sonic's platforming content, I think Knuckles, he's the main one, just because Knuckles can climb just like Sonic. I feel like Knuckles is the main one who works the best with Sonic's moveset, but we don't care. We already know that it doesn't fit perfectly, so just let us play with them in general. Number 68, let characters be playable in cyberspace. I think that's a real letdown as well. I know like making specific cyberspace stages just for them, you know, I don't think anybody was really expecting that, but I feel like they should still be playable in cyberspace. Like what, half of the levels aren't really that crazy anyway, and who cares? People have already broken the levels anyway with the homing magnet, the magnet dash, or whatever it's called. People are already flying all across the stage. Like who cares if somebody's flying with Tails? It's also kind of sad to explore the island with them and find cyberspace portals and you can't use it, so you have to run back and switch to Sonic just to get to that portal. You'd also have to give Tails a homing attack probably for if you were to do that, but honestly he could just fly over any gap that needs homing attack. So even if they didn't give him one just for cyberspace, you would still be good. Also, people are probably wondering why I didn't include Tails having a homing attack. That's not really, like I said, I'm trying to just talk about strictly polish, and so that's a design choice that I guess for whatever reason they wanted him to be different that way, and so I'll respect the decision to have that. Number 69, give the characters their normal outfits so that they're not always in their cyberspace form. Number 70, give the new Oranos a new look. I think that if they're already just going to revamp the entire island, that they should have at least did something else with it to make it stand out more. I think that with the end coming and like the moon coming closer and closer, they could have made it like wintry or something, or act like it got colder. So like, you know, there's already mods that made everything look more like autumn, or even there's winter mods as well. There's a perfectly good story reason they could have did that, or make it more like a kind of like a nuclear fallout, having it white and grayish like that. I think that would have been really cool, and it would have separated it from the original even more. Number 71, let New Game Plus allow you to play with all characters unlocked. So I think that after you finish the final Oranos story, I think that you should be able to be in the game again and have the characters be playable. Maybe every time you unlock them from their little cyberspace show, that you're allowed to play with them. So you start off with Amy, then eventually free Knuckles, then you play with Knuckles and Amy, and just go from there. Or even just let you play with them all from the beginning. You know, if that's New Game Plus, that's actually probably the better way to handle it. And then if you start from the beginning, the way the game should have went is then you start from the very beginning, you unlock Amy first, and you can play with her, and it's just Sonic and Amy in the first level, and goes from there. To be clear, New Game Plus, you have everyone unlocked from the very beginning, and then your normal playthroughs, you unlock them one by one. Fix the sidestep animation. It apparently only plays to the left now. I don't know what happened to the animation, but it was fine before, so fix it back. Number 73, fix the slowdown on rocky terrain. Number 74, fix Sonic's power boost trail. It used to look normal, but in the new update, it's now low, like by his feet, and so they have to bring that back up. Number 75, fix the power boost in general. It used to be that as soon as you have 400 rings, anytime you have rings above that, you can still get power boost, but now you can only get power boost if you're at the max rings. So if you have your rings set to 999 rings, now you have to be at 999 to get power boost. I don't know why they did that. With all the characters, I have their rings at a low number, so it doesn't take so long for me to get the rings up. Number 76, add more enemies to Arenos like soldiers. Number 77, integrate combat into the story 4. I think Sonic should have been saved for those Master Plus enemies, since he's already pretty close to max level by the time you get there. The others can fight weaker enemies that spawn specifically for their missions, since they aren't at max level, and that grind is really crazy. Most people don't beat a single Guardian until they've actually beaten the game, beaten the Guardian with the new characters, just because they're so hard. Number 78, scale the difficulty better. The game is even though I like the difficulty of the game, it's really way too hard on easy mode and medium for people. So I think that platforming should stay the same. I know people are not gonna like that, but something they can do is just add more checkpoints on the towers. Just like on Ray Island, they had the pulley system. If you're on medium or easy, just add more pulleys. And I think that when it comes to the final boss rush, I think they should just add more rings depending on your difficulty. I like how they extended the parry time, so their parry is not as strict as it is on hard, but just so they would stop crying, I think they should have added more rings for them. Number 79, cut out the boss run and the boss rush, specifically the boss run to Wyvern. I literally ended up having that trail memorized about which electric ball was going to go down which aisle, just because of how many times I played it. It took me like 50 times to beat it on hard mode, and it just wasted so much time doing that. Number 80, make Sonic's 4th trial a stronger ninja. I think the 3rd trial was good because it lets you practice perfect parry with those wolves. So even though it's really easy, I mean, at least like I get it's getting people into the groove of doing perfect parry. And the 4th one, I thought it was going to be really awesome. I was really excited for it, but they just made the ninja too weak. So they should have like made his stats go down low like they did with the soldier, and then they should have made it like not necessarily a master ninja, but they could have at least made it a Kunoichi or something. Number 81, have the Master King Coco give his tips before the fight with the end. I think what they should have done is, well, first off, Master King Coco does not give you tips until after you beat him, and then it's like as you complete the island further, he will give you more tips. And I think it's like when you 100% the island, then he will give you like all the tips you need in order to beat the Master King. I think they messed up. They should have had it that he will give them to you before you fight them. Like, I'm perfectly cool with the idea of like fighting the end and not knowing what to do at all, because I fought him like so many times, and like it took me like 2 hours to beat him because like I was trying everything and I could not figure out how to detach his cord. And so I think it's fine if you don't want to tell me that, but Master King should give you the option like, hey, I will tell you how to do it, but you have to 100% this island first. And that would have been annoying, but honestly, it would at least make sense. Like the final boss of the Frontiers Final Horizon, it would have been probably my favorite final boss of the entire Sonic franchise, and it probably still is, but I hate the fact that I had to look up online what to do, because I really hate doing that in general. Like I will be so meticulous trying everything, and literally I didn't know what to do. And the solution, which was attacking him and then dodging, I would have never figured that out. It would have only been by accident. But at that point, I already knew there's no point in attacking him,
So there was no way I was gonna attack him again like that. Like I was trying to side loop the cord. That's what I was trying to do the entire time. And I was like, maybe I'm just missing it or this or that. And so I don't know. Number 82. Fix the lock-on system. If they fixed it, you wouldn't really need a tip, honestly. But either make that known from the beginning of the game that like, oh, this is how you change targets. Attack them, then dodge. If they would have made that known, like specifically verbatim, then there would be no issue. So either make it known or fix it. Number 83, add the Demon Slayer threat effect to the End's attacks. If you parry like all of the End's little energy balls, then he goes into like a 3-hit combo against you. And normally throughout the game, I'm used to hearing that noise and seeing that thread. It doesn't even really help me parry, but it just lets you know the attack is coming. And so for the end boss fight, they don't have those on those attacks. I don't know if was intentional, like just like how we can't do regular parry. Oh, now we don't get the Demon Slayer. Like it kind of makes sense, you know, it makes the parry harder. And so it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I feel like it wasn't intentional. I feel like they just messed up and they didn't add that. So just add that back in, or at least make some kind of line of dialogue to explain why that's not there. And number 84, please let us play as the blue corrupted Cybersonic in the second phase. Please, it kills me. The idea that we can only see it in a cutscene and we don't even get like a full scene of seeing his whole body, like that kills me so badly that they really relegated blue Cybersonic to a cutscene. Oh my gosh, I really wish that was a second phase. Like that's such a heartbreaker. And that's all I have. 84 ways to polish Sonic Frontiers on the Final Horizon. I did my best to cleanly put together this list. Sorry for inserting some bias in some moments, and I know not everything that I suggested is perfect, and there are probably even more issues that need to be fixed that I haven't addressed. So if there are things that I missed, or if there are issues that you don't think is a problem, please put it down in the comments below and we can continue this discussion. I know that the director Morio Kishimoto was looking at a lot of people's feedback after the Final Horizon came out. I really wish I got this video out sooner. There's no way he could have watched this because it's in English, but I do think this discussion should continue because I really do think this game would benefit from another patch. Like, the game is so close to greatness that it's really sad, the idea that they would kind of leave the game at this state, because in reality it's unfinished. The game, even after the Final Horizon, the game is still unfinished. There's a lot of things that they can fix up and spruce up, but you know they still need more time in the oven. But that wraps it up for this video. Please subscribe to your boy, and if you guys like this video, I can give more Sonic content on the way. I can even make more videos like this. Sonic Superstars just came out, and there are a couple polish issues in that game. Maybe we need a video on the ways to polish Sonic Superstars as well. But make sure you comment down below, like this video, share it with your friends, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thanks guys, y'all be safe.